Welcome to the session. Just we're talking about the concept of the functions. Here the functions really helps us to define the corresponding logic and to return some value after completion of the execution. Now, as a part of that particular discussion, we have completed the understanding of the user-defined functions, and then we have seen scope and lifetime of the variables in terms of local and global variables. Okay, now what we are studying in this session is how many kinds of arguments I can give in a function. Because friends, at the moment I am working with the function, there are certain aspects like I want to give the number of arguments, or I want to handle the type of arguments, order of arguments, like that we're having some arguments handling with respect to the function call. Now what we're doing here is, friend, just to observe here, we can call a function using various types of the formal arguments. Like in the function definition, I'm having the function name along with my argument list. And we are talking about these argument list, which is very handy, which is very helpful in our programming logics. First thing is the default arguments. As the name implies, suppose function one is taking 3 arguments, and some of the arguments I want to put by default. Maybe I can say, for example, we are recruiting the people for data engineering stream. Now I need not explicitly enter the designation because we are recruiting for the data engineers. Around 150 members I want to recruit. Those many members I want to recruit. So I want to keep this designation as the data engineer rather than entering every time. Okay, so now what we're doing this thing, guys, just with the help of the default arguments I can achieve. We'll see some example. First, I want to give the description. Second important point is the keyword arguments, friends. Okay, and third thing is the positional arguments, and fourth one is flexible arguments, args, and as well as the double star KW args. Okay, these are all various things: default arguments, keyword arguments, required arguments or positional arguments, or else, and fourth one is the flexible arguments. Moving ahead now, what do you mean by the default arguments? In some cases, we have a function with multiple parameters, and we have a common values for some of them. As I said earlier, the designation of the employees where we are recruiting is data engineering stream. So just we are making use of that particular DE or data engineer as the default argument. And we can specify default arguments for our parameters. Of course, in these cases, we can call our function without specifying the values for the parameters with the default arguments. It is quite understandable, guys. Like if I'm leaving that argument, it is by default DA, and you can override that with a DS or machine learning or big data engineer. Like that, if I'm changing that designation, maybe sometimes you may feel rather than the candidate is suitable for DS rather than DA, I can override that. Or I feel this guy is having capabilities in big data and I want to recruit him, recruit that candidate. So rather than DE, I can make use of the big data overriding and all. If you are not giving, then it belongs to the default argument. If you give, then it overrides the default argument. To do this in Python, we can use the equal sign followed by the default value. Okay, so just this is the default argument. Let me share the Jupyter notebook, friends. And first we'll complete the discussion about the default and then we'll move to the another example. Okay, so as I said earlier, the default arguments are nothing but if you want to maintain some of the conventions where I want to make use of those particular conventions with even without giving the values, I want to maintain that arguments as usual. Now see here, I'm taking the function definition as a raise power. Number is the first argument and power equal to 2 is the second argument. Now what we are doing is you might be knowing this double star in Python, friends. So just which is giving that power value. Okay, just 2 double star 4, 2 power 4 like that. So just we are making use of that particular double star. Now we are raising the power. We are calling the function. But here you see guys, a number I have entered, but we have not given the second argument power. So 9 power 2. Automatically this power will be substituted with 2. Now you can see the outcome also as 81, 9 square. Similarly, in the second function call, we have given number as 2. Power value this time I don't want to go with the default argument. I want to give the power value as 3. 2 cube. Okay, just we got the value 8. So the default argument friends here, see here power equal to 2. Just we are keeping this argument as 2 by default. And whenever there is a requirement, I can use that power. If I am not mentioning the second argument, obviously it is taking 2 power equal to 2. Whereas I can explicitly mention that value also, then it is not taking the value 2. Whatever the value developer supply, that value will be taken. So this is how you can see the usage of the default argument. Okay, now let me share the content. Okay, we are now talking about the orientation of default arguments. Now we are moving ahead with the example and then okay, keyword arguments. So these things pretty much helpful guys. Like keyword arguments are related to the function calls. When you use keyword argument in a function call, the caller identify the arguments by the parameter name. Okay, so just with the help of the parameter name, the function can be called. We'll see some example. This allows you to skip arguments or place them out of order because the Python interpreter is able to use the keywords provided to match the values with the parameters. Suppose interchangeable, I can use friends A, B, B, A, something like that, but still it is internally Python maintains the corresponding identity. We can use the keyword arguments using the argument name equal to. Okay, so now if you consider the example friends, here what I am doing here is at the moment I am talking about same function we are taking. Okay, in the default arguments we have given number and power equal to 2. This time we are not using the default argument, just we are using the number and as well as the power and same logic. Now print range of power 2 comma 3 number n equal to 2 and p equal to 3 2 cube. Now you see friends, this is the magic actually, the keyword arguments. Now what I am doing is number equal to 2, I am explicitly mentioned and power equal to 2. So the same order I am following and this time I am changing the order power equal to 3, number equal to 2. Now practically guys, if I'm talking about this thing, it should execute like this 2 power 3. Okay, because generally if I'm not having the keyword argument support in Python in a general way, it should compute 3 square, but it won't do that guys. It is strictly maintain the order of these particular arguments because it is taking number as 2 and power as 3, 2 cube, because our logic is that. So that is the main advantage of the keyword argument. Now I'm going back and see this thing. This allows you to skip arguments or place them out of order because the Python interpreter is able to use the keywords provided to match the values. That is why we are calling them as the keyword arguments. Okay, no matter whether I'm using the number or power interchangeably, no problem with the support of this keyword arguments. Python follows the convention. Okay, right. Moving ahead. Oh, one more important thing, guys. This is pretty simple because every programmer, while working with the functions, he has to give some sort of the positional arguments. First, let us see the example here. In the summation function, we are taking x comma y and we are computing x plus y and we are printing the value c. Definitely this x value expecting something and y value you can give something. So obviously these variables are expecting some values. Accordingly, the logic is going to compute. But whereas guys, if I am not giving these two arguments, I am not using the default arguments, but I am missing out some of the argument. Just instead of giving the two arguments, I am giving only sum of 20. Okay, we should not do that guys, because just the summation function is having two arguments. and it is expecting two arguments, but we have supplied only one argument. Okay, now if you see, this is returning some error, missing required positional argument. Why? Because it is of course assuming 20 as imported to X, and what about Y? Because we have given only one value. Now you see, required arguments must be passed to the function in the exact positional order to match the function definition, because it is mapping one to one. Okay, so whatever the argument list we are having, accordingly the numbers we have to supply. If the arguments are not passed in the right order, or else if the arguments passed are more or less than the number of defined in the function, a syntax error will be encountered. Because this is a positional arguments, it expects the corresponding variable. The corresponding variable value must be supplied by the user. Accordingly, the function is going to execute. This is a pretty common and simple aspect, friends. Like whatever the value you are giving to that, that value should be substituted to the number of arguments. Okay, moving ahead. This is more flexible, friends. As the name implies, flexible arguments. Let us see the example first, and then we'll discuss the concept. Just we are making use of the definition add, which is the function. Here, this star, guys, actually star means number of. Okay, number of arguments. And just the logic here is based on the entry of the corresponding arguments. I want to find out the summation. Okay, if I'm giving 3, like 1, 2, 3 kind of thing, 1 plus 2 plus 3. Or else if I'm giving 5, like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, like that it is going to compute. Now for that, what we are doing is here, guys, just to initially 10, 20. So it is expecting two, two arguments. So just how it is doing is number, how many numbers I'm having, just we are getting into this n. Some value initially 0, just that value. I assume that 1 comma 2, if you give 1 plus, and then n value, some value is 0, 0 plus n value initially 1. Now some value is 1. Again, we are repeating for loop because still numbers are there in this list. So some value is 1 this time. So 1 plus, and again n value 2. So finally we'll be getting the summation as 3 if you give 1 2. 10 20 if you are giving 10 plus 20 30. And see, as we are using the flexible arguments, I may give whatever the number I want, 10 20 30 40. Obviously 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40, whatever the value, that value will be printed. This time I'm giving 6 values, guys. So why we are saying this arguments list as flexible is there is no restriction on number of arguments. Okay, so just you can give 2 arguments or 4 arguments or 6 arguments. Accordingly, it is going to perform the logic. So this is most flexible, friends. Whenever you are not aware of how many arguments are expected by that particular function in what way, accordingly you can make use of this convention. Now the flexible arguments, we may want to define a function which accepts more arguments than we have specified in the function. Uh, To be frank, we are only specified one, but with the help of the star support, this is having the magic of accepting multiple arguments. We may need to pass any number of arguments to our function. We can use this special syntax star args. And one more thing, guys, kw args in our function definition to achieve that. This args is nothing but the arguments are called non-named variable length, because at the moment I am specifying the star, it leads to the variable length arguments. Okay, variable length argument. This is also known as the flexible arguments. Now we are having one more support, guys. Like there is a second kind of the flexible arguments, which is kw args. These arguments are called named variable length arguments. Okay, in the function, we use a double asterisk before the parameter name to denote this type of argument. In the earlier example, we have used only single argument, guys, star number. Okay, you can give any number of arguments, 1, 2, 3, like that. There is no restriction on number. But in this case, let me explain how we are making use of this thing. The argument Okay, while working with the KW args, just I am giving the double star and I am mentioning the variable. Now I want to print the type of these arguments and the value. Now you see guys, just I am calling this function with the name and as well as the position. Name and as well as the position, both are string type of the data, which is handling the textual information. So now at the moment I am typing, it is giving the dictionary type. So dictionary not yet covered guys. Just this particular dictionary is a key value pair kind of thing, where if I want to mention some name, okay, so name of the person and qualification. Just I want to give these kind of key value pair, just I can use the dictionary. So your KW arguments belongs to the type of the dictionary because it is giving the key value pair kind of aspect. And then I'm printing the values. Of course, whatever the values you have supplied that is getting printed on the screen. Second time we are calling with three parameters. One is string, second is also string, third one is a floating point number. Now you see guys here in the earlier example, we are not particular about the name of the arguments. Just we are giving the numbers or whatever we want. But whereas in this example, you can even specify the names for the arguments also guys. Names like see for in the first example function call, we have given the name and position. But whereas in the second case, we have given the qualification, specialization, and as well as the experience. So this KW args becomes quite handy whenever you don't know the type of the arguments and the name of the arguments, which is the named variable length arguments. You can even supply the names along with the values. So which definitely gives you the understanding of the flexible arguments, and you can easily import these whatever the names you want or whatever the parameter names you want to give, you can freely give that particular orientation. This is how you project the specifications related to the flexible arguments. Okay, and in the next session, friends, we are going to talk about the built-in functions and lambda functions along with the recursive functions with the examples. Okay, meet you in the next lecture. Thank you.